about the city of Memphis, but not only that, the new police chief, Talut. Judge Joe Brown will be joining us a little later. But where is the love? We've got an article here. The love, portrayals of African-American romantic relationships. And let's do it like this. Go through some of this article and talk about what we know as African-American men about relationships, any aspect of it that we want to touch on. Let's deal with it in that manner. All right? This article is by Christopher Johnson, by which he talks about the media. Omar says the media has the power to create depictions of people and situations that are interpretations of the real world. These images carry with them messages that sometimes modify or exaggerate reality and therefore creates beliefs that can have tremendous impact on people's perception of the world and those in it. Consequently, some groups are given unfair representations. In particular, the quality of African American imagery has not improved since their introduction to television. This is by Punyanut Carter, 2008. Hard to pronounce their difficult word. According to the Punyanut, this guy, Punyanut Carter, watching television may cause viewers to conceive, alter, or even reinforce their beliefs and opinions about blacks, 2008, page 241. More importantly, these images could have repercussions for how blacks view themselves. Thus, the present study seeks to examine how portrayals of heterosexual African-American romantic relationships on sitcoms could potentially affect younger black viewers' perceptions of relationships. In this study, 3 questions will be evaluated. How much television do African-Americans consume relative to other racial groups? What types of images are being shown of African-Americans on television? And can these images have an effect on African-American interpersonal relationships? Omar, what about that article? And hey, Isaac, here we go. Contrast and compare. Omar, so let's deal with that. Let us contrast and compare.
You know, when you talk about television,
yes,
it's a brainwash.
Yeah.
As to what reality should be, because it's not necessarily the truth, and often it's not the truth.
Yeah.
And you should be careful what you allow on television. I saw a commercial talking about a HIV medication, and at the end of it, there were 2 black men kissing each other in the mouth, as if that's normal. So your children looking at that, thinking it's harmless, will think, I can kiss another dude in the mouth, and it's all right. You did it on television, and it must be okay. So you brainwash the child into believing that is a normal relationship, when in reality it is not normal, not in any society on the face of the earth. And the same thing that we do with other aspects of human relationships. The TV is brainwashing you to believe that what they're showing on TV is actually true, when in reality it's not true. What they're trying to do is reshape your behavior so you'll accept it as truth. And that often is what destroys the family right now. Back in the day, 70% of the black household, there was a head of the house, there was a man. He was there taking care of business. Nowadays, there's no household head, or the man is there as a fool. He ain't taking care of nothing. But that's because they have made it look like it's okay to do that. You can get some sweets between the sheets and you ain't got to pay for it. Somewhere we got to fix that image and let our children know. And I appreciate my children, because I train them that when you find somebody you want to be in a relationship with, then you should bring them to me. Let me talk to them. Let me scope them out. Let me plumb to the depths of their thinking, their mindset, to see if they're worthy to be around you, let alone be with you. And I like that, because I went through so many things my own self. I started figuring I got to ask more questions before I feel like this is the person for me. If I ask the right questions, then I can just back up and say, this ain't the one. Don't get yourself tied up in this relationship. My children need to do the same thing, and they do that right now. They ask and ask and ask before they go the next step. We don't do that enough in relationships. And that's why we have so many people right now with women with children, but the father's not in the household. They thought they knew everything they needed to know. They found out they knew very little about the man, and his sense of responsibility and fatherhood was definitely not there. Somewhere we got to get away from the television image of what a relationship should be like, and go back to that good old-fashioned image of our own heritage and culture, what a man really is supposed to do, and how a woman is supposed to respond, especially when it comes to what a real man is, because most of them don't know what a real man is. They've never seen one.
Omar, do I hear you saying that? Well, let me put the question this way: is it a situation among African Americans that we basically look at a possible mate from a physical standpoint as opposed to mental and other important factors, if you will?
Often that's the only way you look at it. They don't look at any other aspect of the relationship. They don't look at it. I mean, I look at a relationship like it's a house. It has rooms in it. And certain things should be in certain rooms. And if that room is out of order, the relationship is going to have a struggle if you get into it. And so, for example, in the kitchen, if you find a woman that's cooking junk food, everything is tastes good, but it ain't no good, then how you going to live with that? Especially if you want to live a long time and she ain't giving you nothing that's going to keep you alive. So if the kitchen ain't right and she don't see a need to do it, then go out the door. If she ain't about her business and taking care of herself, cleanliness or whatever, then you know you can catch some infection. If she ain't about that business, hey, the door is still open. Back up out of that bad for her. If she's not raising her children properly,
right,
she's cussing in front of them, being naked in front of them, showing them things that they shouldn't be exposed to, then you're going to have some children you have a hard time with as you go into life. Don't have any children with that one, because your children are going to be affected by that behavior. As the book said, and the word became flesh. And if that word that she's putting out there becomes flesh, then how are you going to deal with it? And the book says that when I was a child, I spake as a child. But when I became adult, what they're telling you is that you got to teach your child, train up a child the way it should go. And if she's not doing that, then back up out the door, because she's going to treat your children the same way she's treating her children.
Right. I spake as an adult.
Yes.
When the time came.
Yes, yes.
So,
but look at grown men right now, with their pants sagging out their booty hole, like a little baby who can't keep his pants up. Look at our grown men right now who take no responsibility for the children they create. Like a baby who can't take responsibility because he ain't old enough to know what responsibility is. But grown men, supposedly grown men, no. They say they grown. They say they men, but they ain't taking responsibility for anything. So unless you train up a child the way it should go, then you're not a man, and you don't need to be in a relationship with a woman who's not willing to do that or don't know how to do that. It's not trying to do that with her own children.
Omar, in other words, all of these various antics should be worked out and discussed before we get on into a relationship.
It's got to be.
Cooking, roles, etc.
The way you
mother, father,
yes,
children.
When I see women that have their body exposed and all that, I see older women, 50, 60 years old, with their breasts hanging out and their pants with these holes in it almost up to their vagina. And I'm thinking, who wants that to represent them? They said, this is my lady, this is my friend. This is the woman I'm in love with. That's not a good representation of me. It might be for you, but not for me. And especially when I saw them with a cross hanging around their neck and it looked like something about to go and do a tap dance on a stage where you show your booty. That's not a good relationship to be in. Certain things have to be in place, and if they're not there, then don't go any further. Get out of it, because you're going to have a lot of issues with it. And that's why I see a huge influx of people getting divorced or not getting married, because they don't see everything they want. They see the bedroom, but they don't see the rest of those rooms in order. So they say, well, I'll just go to the bedroom then. I'll do that, but I don't want to get married. Why don't you want to get married? Because you don't see those other things that you need, and you know you need them, and so you'd rather just not do that. Don't want no paper on that, because then you're permanently locked in. But again, somewhere the relationship part, Elijah Muhammad said that marriage is a science. It ain't something you just jump into. You study it, and you study to make sure that the person you got is going to be the person you need to be with. forever and ever. The way they raise their children, the way they handle household affairs, the way they handle finance, the way they handle themselves in the world. If that person is not doing those things, then that's not the person for you. Think hard, twice, long before you say, yeah, she's the one.
Well, my perspective about relationship is centered around relationship wars. You know, the wars that we engage in within our relationships. And we know this for a fact, Brother Omar, or Dr. Omar, that divided and conquered is a principle of war. Divided and conquered is where we are, because our relationships are divided, okay, within the household. So if you don't have a solid relationship within your home, you are divided and conquered. So who made us like this? Why are we like we are? Why is it that anyone who enters into a relationship, newly relationship, automatically conclude in their subconscious mind, it's not going to last? It's not going to last.
Yes, sir.
You know, so what happens is, the prelude to our relationships as African American or black people is, yes, I will enter into it, but the subconscious say it's not going to last. Historically, none of our relationships survive. Look, and I love going back in history. I mean, I'm a history buff, as they say. Okay. Historically, during the days of our ancestors' enslavement, the relationships were based upon the enslaver's intent.
Correct.
Not our intent.
Correct.
Not the human being's intent, but the enslaver's intent. Meaning that the enslavers would put a male and a female together for the sole purpose of reproduction.
Correct.
And when that reproduction come into reality, and there is a child, the enslaver, after a certain period of time, would take the child and separate the male and female. So for 300 or 400 years of that, our subconscious conclude it is not going to last. So that primarily make us a type of people who are unusual and different. We are vastly unusual. We're abnormal as a people, as 40 million inhabitants in the United States, because we were cultured totally different than other human beings on the planet. And our relationships are not really relationships. As you mentioned, Dr. Omar, come together forever. It is not practical. It is not among us. We end up with several relationships, because that's what Master had us on a path to. Many, many, many relationships with many, many, many different fathers and mothers, and the children were the product of his wealth building. So my perspective on our relationships today is we have to enter into our own conscience, our own minds, to envision what a relationship should be, and build from there. Number one, as I mentioned once before, there hasn't been a study on the effect of slavery, a concrete, solid study that would cause us or a study that we could learn or be taught that would cause us to alter our thinking about who we are and why we are like we are. We don't know. We're just doing things. See what we do? We're just doing stuff. Our relationships are just doing stuff. We don't know the role of a man. We don't know the role of the woman, and the children are our partners. So we're just doing stuff.
Correct.
And we are hurting ourselves.
Correct.
Decade after decade after decade. The punishment, I'm going to say this one thing, and I'm going to pass it back to you, Omar. It's one thing about the old saying, an old scriptural saying, that God punished people. Well, I believe that, but not like God says you are punished. I believe that what we have done in the past inappropriately as a whole people ends up being our punishment in the future. So what we have done as a whole people, we have lived a life that has produced for us a punishment, and we're living it right today. Our children are killing each other. Our women are being raped by members of our society. We can't entrust people with anything. You can't put down an ink pen and 2 minutes later go back and pick it up. Somebody would have taken it. We have become a people with, I'm not going to say have become, we may have always been like this, but it's more obvious today than any other period. A people who cannot be trusted. We are a people who lie for absolutely nothing, just to lie. We'll rob you in the blinking of an eye. Fall asleep among them, and you may not, when you wake up, your wallet is definitely going to be gone. Period. So who are we as a people in our relationship? Because all of these things are relationships. Okay, not relationship to me isn't just the love between a man and a woman. Relationship is a host of other interaction with people. And the outcome of that interaction for African American is almost always negative. Even in the church, in the masjid, in the temple, in the synagogue, anywhere you find a huge number of African Americans assembled for whatever purpose, those relationships are hurt. They're not solid and powerful relationships. Well, the outcome of that is zero productivity, zero manufacturing, zero making things, zero of creating jobs for ourselves, zero in building businesses for ourselves. Divided and conquered by virtue of having a inappropriate idea of relationship. Omar.
You know, we do have some vestiges of slavery in the black community even until today. Because the slave master used the black man as a stud to create, investment property, his children, that he could use on the plantation for free labor or sell at the marketplace for some cash to operate his farm. We kind of got away from that once we got out of slavery, because we did have a sense of morality and what families should be, because we had been torn apart all through the slave process. Husband sent to one plantation, wife another, a child to another. And it hurt. And we kept having to endure the pain. We got out of it a little bit and started trying to develop what we felt like were solid, wholesome, moral families. And I remember my father and mother both got to the 3rd grade of school. Neither one could read or write, but they had a solid family relationship. They taught us what's good and what's not good. Sometimes we didn't even understand why they were disciplining us. But as rode through life later on, I understood why I couldn't go out in the street. Because there were cars out there and death was out there. And I just wanted to have a good time. But they said, not like that. Why I couldn't do certain things, they felt like, no, not like that. Why I couldn't even have conversations about certain topics. I remember sitting on the front porch with my friends, and I must have been like 11 or 12 years old. We were talking about where babies came from. And I mentioned something about babies come out of airplanes. My mama heard me. And she hollered at me and said, bring you over in here. What you doing talking about that? Because she felt like you're too young to talk about, that kind of thing. Because that comes from sex and you ain't ready for none of that.
Right.
But again, they had a pathway to adulthood, and they were trying to make sure I stayed on the pathway. Then something strange happened around that same time. This thing called welfare, where they could give you some subsidized or free housing, but you didn't have a man in the house. And without a man in the house, then where is manhood coming from? Because the woman don't know nothing about no manhood. She might learn a little bit here and there from being around one, but how can she bring a man into manhood if she is not one herself and she hasn't been through the experience herself? But the process said, we'll give you a free house or some real cheap, $15 a month, if you'll make sure ain't no man in the house. And as a result, the man was removed from the house and manhood went with him. So after that point in time, since there was no man in the house, there was a deterioration in the black family, serious deterioration. And that deterioration is even in effect to this day. Somewhere we got to fix that and make sure that when you have a relationship with a man, he is committed to you. Committed to the point that, hey, when we get married, I'm gonna make sure we got it tight. But before we get married, I'm gonna show you who I am, so you know that, hey, I'm the one you should marry. And marriage should be the objective, not just some sweets in the sheet, but marriage should be the objective. So that when we go down this road far enough that we know each other well enough, then we can say, yeah, let's do it. Let's put a ring on it. Let's make it final. But we don't do that today. It's just from one sweets in the sheets to the next, to the next, to the next. And you don't know where he been when he come back home to you. That needs to end. That's not healthy for the children, and it's not healthy for the black woman.
And look, yes, and look, Omar, I want to respond to something that you mentioned, and that is welfare, and how the government intervened and entered into the families of the African American people to manipulate them.
Yes.
Okay, it's happening today. Today they call it child care, and what child care does, it put us in a category where the man is not mentioned. It's about the woman again, and it's what the woman is going to get from the government in the name of child care, which means that the United States government is separating the black man from the black woman. Again, it's a continuous process, okay? And how is that separation coming about? She, the mother of the children, are going to get the child care. It has nothing to do with the father. So that is enriching the woman without the consent of her husband. If a man walked up and said, look, Omar, Wallace, if a man walked up to your spouse and said, look, I'm going to give your wife $1,000, would you step back and say, yeah, sure, give it to her? No, you're going to respond, what the hell you think you right? Okay, right. So there's no difference in a man doing it and the government doing it. There's no difference. The government said, I'm going to give your wife $10,000 because of her children, not your children, okay? Not the husband and wife or whatever the makeup of that relationship is, children. You see, it's for specifically the woman. That's a divide and conquer technique that keeps the male out of the family structure, okay? Because really the way it should be is building the family structure, enforcing the family structure, laying down the proper foundation for family structure. But not to give the wife money and not include the husband.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's deviate for a minute. Omar, NACA. A few announcements about NACA, where we are today with NACA, getting and speaking of family, and building wealth, and getting people into homes and etc. And you're going to be stepping out of that role pretty soon. Tell us about when you're going to be stepping out and stepping into NACA. Bring us up to date.
NACA is a company that has been, a nonprofit that's been in existence for over 30 years. They don't do any advertising. Right now they have over 2 million members. What they are set up to do is help low to moderate members of the community to become homeowners. People who may not have good credit, who can't save for the down payment. People may be from, different situations where they had things happen that they had no control over and it has affected their finances. So when a person comes through the NACA program, they go through a workshop, which we just had one yesterday. 98 people in the workshop on Zoom. And what I did in the workshop was tell them how to become qualified to buy a home. In America, wealth is transferred through real estate, not through stocks and bonds and all this other crazy stuff. It's through real estate. You have generational wealth where you can pass your real estate down from one generation to the next, which is how rich people do it. How Donald Trump is doing it. He's not rich because he got stocks. He's rich because he got hotels, real estate. So that's what we need to look at is how do you pass it down? My dad was in that same mindset. He told each one of his 11 children, when you leave my house, don't you rent nothing. Make sure you buy a house, otherwise I'm coming to get you. So everybody ended up buying a house. And then their children buy houses because that's the way the family was taught to do it. So NACA is that same mindset. Buy and own where you live. And you would be surprised. Right now I've got members who are having houses built right now. House note $600 a month for 3-bedroom, 2-bath, built, brand new from the ground up. And we have people that walk in that I got, in fact, a lady who's also, she was on Social Security. I got a picture of her hanging on my wall. She's paying $625 in rent. She's living in a beautiful home in Raleigh, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-car garage, and paying $367 a month for a house note. This is what NACA does. But if you're in the upper echelon of income, I have a gentleman who was working at Tennessee State University. Now he's working for the Tennessee Board of Regents. A $300,000 house, built brand new from the ground up. And he's paying somewhere around $1,100 a month. But again, these things happen with the NACA program. And I know people say, well, I don't have good credit. They don't look at credit scores. They're not considered. Whether you have 400, 800 credit score, or you ain't got no hundreds because you ain't never had no credit. It don't matter. You can take a black magic marker and just mark it out the paper. They're not going to look at it. What they look at is how have you paid your bills in the past 24 months, and in particular, how have you paid your bills in the past 12 months. They look at that. And that payment history is what helps to determine your success in the NACA program. Sometimes we have people that have situations where they've had charge-offs from years ago, and it's still plaguing them on that credit report. So when somebody pulls their credit, there it is standing there staring at them. I have one like that. A lady who co-signed for a truck for her son. He had lost his job, didn't have transportation. He needed transportation. He couldn't get it because the credit was jacked. So she co-signed for it. He got the truck, was working, lost the job again. The truck was repossessed. It was 4 years ago. It was on her credit report since she co-signed for it. But because it was on the credit report, everybody was turning it down. NACA looked at it, when NACA collaborates with Bank of America because they do the financing. Looked at it, said it was over 2 years ago. Just tell her to write a letter about what happened, why it happened, and why she'll never co-sign for anybody ever again. Wrote the letter and went on, got her approved so she can get her house. But that's the NACA program, and that's how it works. So if you're looking to get a house through NACA, go to www.NACA, Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, www.NACA.com to sign up for the workshop. And if you're in Memphis, there's a good chance that you'll be assigned to me so I can help you get approved if you're in the Memphis area. if you're outside of Memphis, we have over 50 offices throughout the country. And somebody who's trained on the NACA process can help you get approved and into your home. I've had people get into a house in 98 days from the time I first see them to the time they walk into the office with some keys in their pocketbook. If you do it the right way, it all comes into a glorious creation for you, and you got your dream home that you never thought you'd have, and you got something you pass down to your children, which is really something we must do. We don't own where we live. Most of it is we rent it out from somebody else. And even though I'm a landlord myself, for over 20 years before I even went to NACA, I was sending people to NACA to buy a house somewhere, not my house, but mine is for income. But go buy a house somewhere, own where you live, and I would even go sign them up on the website. I can go to the website and sign them up myself to make sure they had, got into the meeting. I would even go to the meeting every few months just so I could keep up what changes might have come through, because I believe you should own where you live. But that is a beautiful program. I can't knock it. Although I will be transitioning out of NACA before the year's up, because I've got another mission I got to go do, and another nonprofit that I've already set up. But every day I will be there. I'm going to be working to get somebody approved. And right now I've got over 100 people that have been approved to transfer out of the house.
Thank you, Omar. Hey, give us a call at 901-452-3094. You may also give us a call at 901-324-7490. Hold on, caller or callers, I'm coming right to you. And Talut, do you have an announcement or two?
No.
You don't? You do not? Okay. Go ahead.
No,
All right, I thought maybe you did. We were talking about some painting and sheetrocking and stuff like that, and building a team sometime pretty soon. But,
well, yes. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Not really understanding you're right.
yeah. It got kind of rough. It got kind of rough down there toward the end.
I didn't get the gist of it. Yeah, that's an excellent idea, and we need to work on it. And primarily because, at one time, earlier in the 20th century, there were many schools that taught skills, okay? And these schools were primarily African American schools, and I think it was a movement to prepare young people for the future of livelihood. So in these classes they taught brick mason, tailoring and auto mechanic, welding. All these were great skills that many of us benefited from and made good livings from, and we learned it in high school. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, give you one example, Wallace. We're gonna get to this right. One example. Stacks in the music industry of Memphis came out of high school.
Yeah.
Okay, many of those young people who became world-renowned artists started in talent shows in high school. And if you remember, throughout our community, there were individuals who taught music, piano players, and all these types of things throughout the African American community across the country. Well, that was kind of sort of like farming, planting seeds, and these seeds growing to be beautiful plants or food or whatever, right? Well, that's what happened in the music industry for black people across the United States of America. And we pioneered this music industry that created jobs, that was gainful employment for thousands of people. Well, that was broken.
Yeah.
Now, what if, hypothetically, what if we as a people resorted back to that kind of thinking? What if we go back into teaching music in the neighborhoods and go back to introducing instruments to young people? Well, we could build again a music industry. And in other areas like sheetrocking and painting and different components of a home, and the process of transforming a house from a shack to a home, and learning the different systems in house building. Okay, we could teach this to young people, and young people would be competitive once they get into adulthood with anybody else that's doing it. And we do have to be competitive as a people. We can't just lay around and do nothing forever. We have to get in the marketplace and compete for our share of America's wealth.
All right, thank you, Talut. Hey, let's take this call. Go ahead, caller. Hey, Joe B, hold on a second. Let's take Miss Pearl. Go ahead, Pearl.
Good
Fantastic.
I'll give you the impact upgrade, and then I had a question for you all about the relationship. So,
Oh, that scares me. Go
A woman's perspective. Wow,
Yeah.
powerful.
you got it. So the council delayed again.
Okay.
Another, well, it's going to be more than 2 weeks. It was recommended since they're prepared to deal with the budget to delay until July the 6th, and I'll keep you posted on
Okay.
that. So they're still going to tweak the language a little more, but the talk of the day wasn't about the ordinance. Unfortunately, it was about the behavior of Attorney Alan Wade, who, at the end of the day, after I watched the tape a couple of times, or well, a few times, video, I'm thinking that brother might have been intoxicated, because he was grandstanding and just talking a lot of stuff and saying, if you don't want to take my advice, I can take my bags and go to the golf course. It was very, it was just disappointing and unprofessional, and just the way, folks do business around here. But as far as the pipeline, so they don't, even if the ordinance didn't pass, they don't have everything that they need. Their Strickland says that he wouldn't be giving them the permit that they need to cross city street. There's a permit needed for that. The county commission voted not to sell them the parcels of land that they need. And the permit that they got from the state, they falsified evidence on the application. So that came out. They were supposed to do full disclosure about any of the pipelines that they had in the area, and they didn't do that. And so I think this is probably going to be long and drawn out, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be able to do it legally. And so while we're waiting for them to get this language tweaked a little better, they agreed to cease and desist with their legal action against some of the property owners, as well as trying to acquire any more easements. And finally, just to show you how the integrity, how this company operates, the Hagen Pipeline specifically, they got a LLC out of Delaware to do the Hagen Pipeline under, so they won't be legally responsible if anything should happen in lieu of a seal or explosion or anything like that. So this company, they're just ruthless, and they're operating without integrity, and I'll just continue to keep y'all posted, and thank you for the opportunity. So about the relationship,
Yes.
I want to ask the welfare and the man not being able to be in the home. Who in our community, or who is society, because I guess that was the rule for everybody on welfare, well, what was the outcry from society saying that this is not a good thing? I don't care what the benefits are, this is not a good thing, signing on to something that disallows the man to be in the home. Where was the voice speaking out against this?
Do you want me to take that? Do you want all of us to take it? And we've got Judge Joe Brown on the line laying and then waiting. But yeah, there was basically no outcry. Because you must remember now all the time that black men, and we were talking about this last night, have been demonized and criminalized. And you will notice that today, mostly women are speaking out, leading the movement and talking about the problems that we face as a people. I looked at a couple of programs, documents last night, and I didn't see the lady who wrote the 1619 project. And the question and answer session, I didn't see any black men raising any questions. 2 black women, the rest of them were white. But this is the kind of conditioning that we've had as a people as we contrast and compare. We see that the discrimination has been directed toward us as a people, especially black men, where white people have received all of the benefits and they have the courage and they go in there and they stand up and ask all of these questions. And then previously to that, another session, didn't see any black men raising any questions. When we look at the movement, Black Lives Matter, when we see all the protests in the streets and etc., we see that we see some black men, mostly the young black men, because they have the courage and the energy and they are not afraid. So I would say that there was very little outcry, and that would be my perspective on why this was taking place, Pearl.
Well,
go ahead, Talut.
Sure, I would love to come in. Because, see, one thing, Pearl, we have to think about the context and the time, the day and time that this happened. It was more than 50 years ago, okay? And knowing that and having lived in that period, there was a lot of poverty, okay? There was a lot of needs, financial needs that went unfulfilled. But there was a father prior to that. There was a father in almost every household until came along the welfare program. Okay, and the welfare program was an opportunity for women to do what? Get their own money. And getting their own money outweighed the need for a father to be in the household. That's how gullible we are as a people. The outcry should have come from the women. And I tell you one thing, my mother tried welfare. I remember that. And when that rule came down, my mother moved out of public housing and moved in a shack and said, I'll never allow somebody to come in my house and enter into my closet looking for my husband's things.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So all of us were not naive to the process as a people, but the women, look, Pearl, a nation cannot be conquered until the women are subdued.
Omar,
You know,
your perspective.
I experienced that because my first year at Lemoyne College, I stayed with my sister who was in Fowler Homes right there, Latham and Crump. And I remember the welfare, and I had to walk to Lemoyne College, down there, Walker. But I remember that lady coming to the house, just a surprise visit, looking in the closet, looking under the bed, trying to see if there was any evidence of a man living there. And I'm thinking, why is she knocking on the door and you don't even know she's coming?
Yeah.
That was the system back then.
Yeah.
But the house was like $17 a month.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Omar. Hey, and Pearl, thank you very much, and stay in touch with us.
Okay, all right.
All right. Bye-bye. And give us a call, 901-452-3094. You can also call us at 901-324-7490. Judge, I have a paragraph, a quick short paragraph that I want to read, and then we would like your interpretation on this paragraph, welfare and all that stuff, the new police director, and your run for mayor of the city of Memphis. And the paragraph goes like this. Television can serve as a communicator between people and the real world, it says. When heavily exposed, it can subtly wire messages into the viewer's conscious without them even knowing. In fact, most people believe that the media does not have an effect on them at all. This is Deal 2009. In other words, disregarding how powerful the media is can be dangerous within itself. More importantly, it is those who continue to consume large doses of media who are more susceptible to its influence. Omar? Go ahead, Judge. Take it away.
That's true. Friends of mine, but not here, and all sound crash. So, they come. And those who watch the lottery, those who watch the lottery with the mountain, those who watch very good. When they play the sitcom with the laugh track, those who watch the lottery, moderate amount laugh, those who watch without laugh, or those who the rough track, those who watch the great people still laugh, those who watch the moderate amount not laugh, those who watch the still did not laugh, because it wasn't funny, but no longer the laugh track, it's humor. And the second group is watching the moderate amount would laugh. And so there's also this little thing back in the 50s that seemed to wrap down on the television places that the cool cigarette all pretty cool first of the day.
You're breaking up, Judge.
A lot of distortion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
That's clear.
That's-
you're out here. I'm a man for 7 years, but I wanted to say something to you.
Well, you sound clear. You sound pretty clear right now.
You're clear.
And then we've got some weather.
You said something about acquiring real estate. Now, what I wanted to interject in here is there is another very large opportunity with real estate, which is once you start turning things upside down on your mortgage, loan or interest to principal, and start building up equity, you can get second mortgages and use the money to finance businesses.
Yeah.
Other income producing adventures, not just buying a new house or not house, but new clothes or maybe a vacation or a car.
Car, correct.
The second thing is when you acquire the real estate, be aware of the fact that particularly here, our city council and county commission are prone to taking stuff under the table so that you grant zoning variances that will drastically drop the value of your property because there are the usual suspects around here that like to bust up areas so they can depreciate the value of the properties required gentrification. And then 30 years downstream, the grandchildren can bust the properties again and recycle them when they gentrify. So there's a bounce back and forth that ought to be controlled by the political process. The zoning variances that are granted should not be granted, and there should be some city planning that is adhered to, but that's not. I want to touch on something with our new chief of police. This jackass, Rinkley, is the first person, mayor, in 40 years to be big enough damn folks to appoint a civil service chief. Why Chandler was the last mayor who had a civil service chief of police, and he could not wait for that person to retire, so the police director that had been a relatively new thing could come into play so he could control the director and control the police department. Now, this stupid jackass Strickland is put in place a thing where there is no longer any political control of the police department. And as it is set up right now, any reform would have to come from the chief, not from the elected civilian mayor, or through the city council, which is too prone to get money under the table and other neighbors rather than looking out for their constituents. I find it very suspect if we have a new chief who was fired for corruption in Atlanta. Had to go drag her tail someplace in the North Carolina so she wouldn't go voting to get another job. Now, this corrupt city council has brought in an already proven corrupted chief to take away the the budget issue of the city council and the nicety of whoever operates the chief's office. Now, there's a way around that, and if I'm elected, I want to take it. Because what I'm thinking about is the police department doesn't need any little showbiz ineffective citizen review board. It needs a citizen componentry in the management of the police department and setting the direction, just like there is a component in the defense department in the United States. Now that's what we need, so we have effective control rather than just band-aid do nothing nonsense.
I agree.
That's the type of stuff we have, and apparently this fool was so inept he didn't know anything about it, or unless he's trying to maintain somebody who comes from a place like Colorado who is sensitive as to the remarks he's already made to our Cooper Young area rather than to the black area.
Okay.
Yeah, this pipeline.
Yeah, there you go. Go for it.
No.
No. And that was done through another Cohen who worked for Trump. The Congressman Cohen attacked often, but behind the scenes, working closely with him to earn his buy, which was what? A huge block of Exxon stock, which just went up because there is a Mexican-American company operating out of Mexico City that worked up a deal with Standard Oil, Exxon in California, that ramped up the value of the stock. So we've got all sorts of corruption. We've got Ford on the city council who admitted who took a consultant fee, which I call a bribe. He pointed out several other members of the city council who got consultant fees on this particular company who wants to put the pipeline in. That's the bribe, because the council pays.
Hey, Judge, in other words, in other words, Judge, in other words, he told it on him. What he was doing, right? Right. Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a U.S. attorney who is, of course, angling to get a federal judgeship, so he's going to wipe his own wife his ass, put on parole, and not do a damn thing to do his job like the last one, Nancy the Third did on the promise of being given a federal judgeship, which kept him out of the game for 8 years while he just let everything go to hell. And then as soon as Trump got in, they snatched his name back, and they told the young man who wanted a lifetime job in the security where we're at, said, I'm sorry, we kept you waiting for all these years, but we just withdrew your name, and this guy got nominated and approved in 3 weeks.
Well, Judge.
Okay,
So, I mean,
Judge, we've got a few questions for you. I'm going to lay these out, Talut, and we'll just go around the board. The mayor is the head of the police department, is that right?
he could be if he had left it for the director, but by having a chief, see, the chief cannot be removed except for cause.
Okay.
Civil service board. He's just like another, he's the highest ranking cop, but he's not subject to political control.
All right, so you said that he could be in the event that we are.
No, you have to still call him.
Okay. And so what? Okay.
You don't fire somebody who steps out of line unless you're worried about civil service on Monday. I'm firing you before you get on with it.
Okay. So what will be? Got you. When you become mayor of the city of Memphis, How will you deal with that? You say he could be issuing calls and etc.
What I just have to tell them was a new structure to the whole police department. That's
A
why
new-
what the city charter, because the police department is still part of the executive function of the city.
Mm-hmm.
The chief of police is not elected. It is an appointed position subject to the approval of council, but he keeps it for lifetime as a civil service employee. However, stopgap or otherwise, that's just like the super captain in the police department. You can still utilize the police director function to marginalize that position, so the police department is still subject to the will of the people. Now, restructure, like I have in mind, where you have the board of directors, staff, a command staff, a command board, you have the civilian component of the command board that sets the long-term policy in immediate on-the-street policy. And that was the engineered so that the civilians who were selected by the mayor would be exercising an effective control, which is instead of, we don't like what you guys did, okay, so what you gonna do about it? Raise hell and talk to the city council, and they're already in somebody's pocket, or, you know, what happens is, this is the order, it's not done.
All right, say something about, Judge, say something about the police review board. Is it the police review board of the citizens?
The review board I'm talking about, that has not worked. We've had one for
Right.
35 going on 40 years. It doesn't work. What does work is the whole principle is called it runs downhill. Yes, runs downhill. The increment runs downhill. And if the man at the top is subject to political control, then if he is going to be fired for not exercising appropriate control relative to the politics, then what happens is the increment runs downhill, everybody below him gets held. So if you don't want to get held, then you have an authority that goes up. Now, I don't like it where you've got somebody that's never been in Memphis now determining the interaction
Yeah.
of the police and the citizens. See, this is the largest predominant class in the United States of America. Most people don't realize that. Only 19.1% of the registered voters in the city of Memphis are white.
All right, Judge Talut. Talut's got a question for you. Go ahead, Talut.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Talut.
Judge, as the mayor of the city, you got your job cut out for you.
Yeah.
And but you actually articulated our issues and problems very well.
Very well.
And I want to thank you for that. You're welcome, sir. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me interject something that I'm thinking about. I've actually seen how it works in a small cities. Where the attorney's office has assessed through corruption. They are known as the most corruptive, dishonest, and misconduct committing DA's office in the United States. Harvard, Yale, and Stanford law reviews have already brought that up. Current elected DA has more complaints and more findings by appellate courts of prosecutorial misconduct against her personally over the last 20 years than any DA's office in the country, including LA, New York, Chicago, Dallas, if the person goes through counseling, rehab, mind adjustment, so they think like men or women with a responsibility to make their communities better rather than hellhole and try to uplift it. There's no charges, no fine. So that takes it outside of the system and gives a hold over and a control factor to deal with the lack of home training. I want a policy where the officers on the street are rated on how well they interface with the public. I want some identification of the young men and women out there in the neighborhood who have leadership potential that is not being used because they've been a little uprooted. I found over the 50 years or so, 16 years or so, 55 years or so that I've been doing this, that if you take a kid who is sharp and you don't give him some purpose and some cause when he starts doing wrong, you take that same kid and you give him something to do and you put him in charge and he has an amazing turnaround.
Exactly.
What you know about I did that with along with two other playground directors back in the 60s. One of them is the late singer Barry White, who was on my playground, and I remember he was a little skinny 12-year-old kid. And the other one, because his mama wouldn't cooperate, went the other way. That was Snooky Williams, who founded the Crips. We took him and we started making him a leader. And he started showing it. He had a great deal of power. We tried to get him out of that swamp, but his mama didn't want to get out of the mud. So he got stuck there with her and he just became the baddest alligator in the swamp. But he did like 6 children, which we did do a lot about, on the other hand, aside from a few random and assorted murders and gangster activities. He did keep some kind of positive order in the position state that the police, LAPD, and had this knowledge that it legislated when the Crips got behind keeping order at a large function. Order got kept.
Judge.
Okay, Judge.
Judge.
Hold on, Judge.
We had a cop where he hung up. But
Hold on. We only have one call now, Isaac.
He had hung up, but he wanted me to ask Judge a question. He wanted to know, how do you feel about Days Matthews running for mayor?
Okay, hold on. Hold on before you answer that question.
Hold on, Judge. Hold on.
Yeah, it's Omar's time. Omar, go ahead. Comment, announcement. Hold on, Judge. No, you cannot.
Public service.
You cannot. Go ahead. Public service now.
Public service now. Patricia Lee, chairwoman of the Moja Foundation, invites you to join them at the Cookatown Museum May 22nd at 6 p.m. There's a banquet, there's a program, the food is free. You're invited to come. You must wear a mask, and there will be social distancing. That's May the 22nd at 6 p.m. Please come. She's all about the children.
Was something about Atwater run for the governor?
Dr. Kanita Atwater has put her hat in the ring to run for governor of the state of Tennessee. We've never had a woman governor. We've never had a black governor in the state of Tennessee. Make sure you support this candidate, because what we got in there is crud and mud.
Crud and mud. Judge, I think we've got a caller who's got a question for you.
No, okay.
Go ahead, Judge.
Hold up. He wants to know.
Oh.
So let's just say that the allegations are that Thaddeus Matthews is a snitch and an informant for certain people or entities in this county. And he earns his keep by informing on black people. And he finds the information out by allegedly masquerading as an investigative reporter rather than a police agent.
That's...
An agent for a faction that really doesn't seem to have the majority of this town as its #1 interest. Put it that way.
How can we tune into your show on Friday, Judge? What is the name of it?
It's called the Judge Joe Brown Show. There's Valerie Denise Jones, who is the producer and director. It comes out on Spotify the following week after the particularly thin-skinned, don't listen. Tell the truth. I invite you to come in, press 1 if you want to get into queue so that you can be recognized. That's a good thing. You got something to say. We've got an erudite crew. We have some very fascinating people coming on who are doing things, and sometimes I put people on who have a contrary position just so we can hear what they have to say.
Okay, I was on in the queue Friday, so when we call in and get in the queue after we press 1, do we have to text you to let us know? I mean, if we're good friends of yours and we really want to get in. Okay. Okay, cool.
But you had thought about that. You were trying to call me, and if you called me, considering the shenanigans that are going on right now, I'll block.
I see.
What's going on home, so you have to text. Now, that's another thing. There is a peculiar phenomenon that we have all noticed. Everybody that's been dealing with this, when the discussion gets hot,
Yeah.
all of a sudden people's calls start getting wild.
Right.
They have trouble getting back on. Certain topics, dealing with, let's say, the rainbow crowd, if there's any displeasure or dissatisfaction or contrary position that is being expressed, interestingly enough, something seems to happen to those calls. So I'm also saying that we should be careful these days and remember the politics involved when we find that we are in fact being censored and heavily propagandized. Some of the things that have been signed into law or not law, executive orders on the federal level, are very dangerous. Now let me express it this way. 1920, when a certain National Socialist Workers' Party was trying to come to power in the country, which was Deutschland, that's Germany, was exactly 45 years old, well, 44 years old. Germany had formed in 1876. This movement of jackboot-wearing, goose-stepping fascists took control of the country, took control of the media, instituted censorship and heavy propaganda to maintain control of the country, and they had basically 6 years to lead up to World War II. Right now, we have some pink panty-wearing fascists who have long controlled the media. They've been propagandizing. They've taken control of the government, and they are instituting some radical reforms from their end that are not reforms to diminish the First Amendment, get rid of the Second, and severely diminish the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment, that certain procedure and right to remain silent for their purposes. And fascism is bad. But by the way, National Socialist Workers' Party, the acronym in German, is Nazi.
Hey, Isaac, what was the caller's question for the judge?
That was the question.
Thaddeus Matthews.
About Thaddeus Matthews.
Oh, Thaddeus? Okay, got it. Got it. Judge, I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier. That was interest, principal, equity, and investment. So, can you explain, or will you explain to the audience why that's important, as in, for example, we were talking buying cars and shoes and etc., especially cars, they depreciate, but homes appreciate. Go ahead, sir.
I worked that. I had some very upscale homes before I went to this board. I had six of them around the country. And I turned them and all this other stuff into, but here's what you can do, and I've noticed a lot of white folks do this. They get property. They pay more than they ought to pay on it to get it so that they start building up equity. You borrow against the equity, or you have a line of credit that you have established to build with the property. You don't use the line of credit or the equity equivalent stuff, but you borrow against it so you can get investment capital. of cash on deposit in IPO bonds on the Federal Reserve System. So they're trying to figure out how to make it fit into their operation because they don't like the idea of not having a backup for something on paper. So they're trying to get good investments. And if you talk with them, all regions, you can get some interesting results. But if you go to the right branch, where the vice president of the branch, or the president, or the managing director of the branch is a black person. And investors, you're likely to find quite a few of those, but you have to slip around it. Remember that to a great extent, what you get depends upon who you're dealing with in the bank. And it's a good idea to develop some good relations with specific management personnel in the bank. If you don't have to use the bank, you're being there.
Well, Judge, we are almost out of time, but we have two people, as you know, here on the panel with us who have been in real estate for quite a while. Talut and Omar, and I want to go to Talut and ask Talut and Omar the same question. With regard to the judge's commentary, how have you found, Talut, your experience to be with regard to the judge's comment?
Yeah, the judge is absolutely correct about the principal and interest of a mortgage payment. You know, for an example, you get a 30-year mortgage on a house, excuse me, if you pay just a little bit towards the principal every month, you're going to reduce the cash output towards that house, and you're going to build equity in that house. But it's one thing that you have to do. You have to make sure that you notify your mortgage company that the extra money is to go towards the principal, because they are more inclined to collect an interest, and they can apply to the interest without you knowing. Okay, so if you do send in an extra payment, a principal payment, contact your mortgage company and let them know that that extra payment is specifically for the principal.
Omar.
With the NACA program, you can buy a single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex. As long as you live in one of those units, you can rent the other ones out. Now, as far as myself personally, I've been a landlord since I was 23 years old. I'm still a landlord today. I got a house I'm about to sell, but when I sell them, I'm back to buy a couple more houses. Because I use it as cash flow, because my wife has a bakery, and we need cash flow. And of course, the bakery produces cash flow, but I like even extra cash flow. so I'm always telling the NACA member, if you want to do that, after you get your house, keys to your house you don't live in, then hook up with me and I can show you how to do some of these other things after you get your keys. I can't do it right now because you can't own the house and then get a NACA house. But again, you can make it happen, and you really should make it happen. You should own where you live, and even if you know, like Judge Brown was saying, how many of us, and we're the majority black in this city, right?
Right.
That's us. But most of us rent. We need to change that picture. That reality needs to change to our benefit, and we're not doing it.
Give out your phone number, Omar.
901-239-1555. 901-239-1555. Omar.
Okay, starting with you, final comments. We're at the end of our show. I'm coming right to you, Judge. We're about to take some final comments now. Go.
Exactly.
When you intend to do it, send the bank or registered letter.
Yes.
Return receipt request to prove that this is your conversation. Because if you just have a talk with somebody, it don't count. There's a thing called statute of fraud, which means anything that is worth more than $750 in this state has to be in writing to be signed.
Final comments, Omar.
You know what Dr. Lewis said is correct too, because it will you'll pay your house off earlier because you're putting the money on the principal, which is really what you're trying to do anyway. It pay down the principal to zero. I always tell NACA members, if you're age 50 and up, don't even get a 30-year mortgage. Get a 15-year mortgage, and then in 15 years you're done with it. You're gonna retire, and then the note's gonna be retired too.
Absolutely. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I would like to go back to Judge Joe Brown and his run for mayor.
Okay.
The judge gave us 4 principles that we have to do in this city. That's to reform the police department, make a way for black business, deal with this pipeline, and take care of juvenile court.
Juvenile court especially.
Absolutely. If you want crime to go down, vote Judge Joe Brown for Memphis. If you want education to improve, vote Judge Joe Brown for Memphis. If you want better entertainment in Memphis, vote Judge Joe Brown for mayor. If you want some good drinking water, vote Judge Joe Brown for mayor. And we're out of here. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Power Show. See you next week.
Go register to vote if you haven't done it already.
Absolutely.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Love Power Show. Be sure to tune in next Sunday as you hear me at 10 a.m. right here on AM 1600 WMQM. Nothing but coming up next. There's some voices. I like this voice too.
I'll show y'all.
It's a good question. The contribution that the black man made in this country, which amounts to 310 years of slave labor, for which we have never been given a dime or a cent.
They not coming?
Huh?
They not coming?
They here? He over there. Here you go.
Here you go.
He on the other, he in the other room.
He's in the other studio. Wow, interesting show.
It was.
Judge Joe Brown had a little order. The judge wasn't so outspoken, but we gave him some time and he just did quite well. He didn't hog the show.
Hey.
I know